The courtroom hadn't even settled into order when the judge lifted his hand and froze everyone in place. The bailiff was halfway through announcing, "All rise," when the judge reached across to the plaintiff's table, picked up a thick binder stuffed with color-coded tabs, and opened it with deliberate calm. He adjusted his glasses and looked directly at the woman seated beside her attorney. "Counsel," he said evenly, "can you explain why your client is suing a homeowner who, according to your own exhibits, is not legally part of this association?" The air shifted. It wasn't the dramatic kind of silence you see on television. It was tighter, awkward. Someone in the gallery let out a poorly disguised snort. A few neighbors exchanged knowing glances. I took a slow sip from my coffee mug. The mug wasn't random. I'd chosen it carefully. Printed across the front were the words, "Not a member." "My name is Evan Brooks. I'm not confrontational. I don't raise my voice. I write technical documentation for a living, which means I spend my days reading the fine print most people skip. That habit, meticulous, borderline obsessive attention to detail, turned out to be the best investment I ever made. 2 years earlier, I bought a modest ranch-style house on a quiet bend of Willow Bend Road. I chose it for one very specific reason. It sat just outside the official boundary of Cedar Ridge Estates Homeowners Association. Before signing anything, I verified everything. Survey maps, county plats, legal descriptions down to the inch. I wanted peaceful weekends. No committee meetings. No architectural review boards. No arguments about mailbox curvature or grass height. Just a home and a little quiet. For 2 years, that's exactly what I had. Then Mara Kent decided I belonged to her. Mara had been HOA president for 6 consecutive years. She carried a clipboard like it was an extension of her arm. Perfect posture. Polite smile, until you disagreed with her. Lately, though, her control was slipping. Fewer residents were attending meetings. Votes were failing to reach quorum. Interest in the association was fading. So she expanded her territory. Creatively. The feist sign was a cheerful welcome to the community letter slipped into my mailbox. It included an invoice, $820 annual dues. Late fees of $25 per day. I laughed. Then I double-checked my deed. Still outside the HOA boundary. When I called the number on the letter, Mara answered personally. "Oh, we consider your property part of the neighborhood," she said brightly. "You benefit from our standards." I explained, calmly, that legal boundaries aren't determined by feelings. They are determined by recorded documents. She chuckled. "Well," she said, "that's your interpretation." That was the moment I realized this wasn't going to be simple. The letters escalated. Official-looking notices warning of noncompliance. Violation slips taped to my front door. One even decorated with a smiley face sticker. Mara walked onto my lawn with a tape measure and took photographs of my mailbox. She told neighbors I was refusing to contribute. She hosted a Know Your Obligations workshop at the community pool and used my house as an example. I documented everything. Every letter. Every invoice. Every so-called assessment fee. They all went into a folder labeled Evidence. Instead of mowing one Saturday, I drove to the county courthouse. What I found changed everything. Cedar Ridge Estates HOA had been administratively dissolved 5 years earlier. They had failed to file required annual reports. Their corporate status was inactive. The covenants governing the neighborhood had expired under state law and were never renewed. Legally speaking, the HOA was a ghost. The liens Mara claimed to be recording? Fabricated templates downloaded online. Incorrect parcel numbers. No licensed attorney involved. She was filing documents without legal authority. When she filed a lawsuit against me for $3,400 in unpaid dues, I hired my neighbor, a retired prosecutor who hadn't looked that entertained in years. We countersued. Slander of title. Civil extortion. Abuse of process. Frivolous litigation. Discovery was devastating. The HOA's membership list included properties from 3 separate subdivisions, and even a vacant lot. Board elections had reportedly been decided by what they described in meeting minutes as general energy consensus. Financial records revealed payments to a consulting company owned by Mara herself. Craft store receipts. Office gadgets. A $450 laminator. All funded through HOA dues. At the hearing, the judge turned page after page in silence. Then he looked up. "Who drafted these lien documents?" Mara lifted her hand confidently. "I did. I manage the association. You are not an attorney? The judge asked. No, she replied. I am a leader. That confidence evaporated quickly. The ruling was swift. The court determined the HOA lacked legal standing. The lawsuit against me was dismissed as frivolous. My anti-SLAPP motion was granted in full. Attorney's fees were awarded. Damages assessed. Then the judge referred the matter to the state attorney general for investigation. Potential fraud, unlicensed practice of law, filing false instruments. An injunction immediately halted all HOA operations pending lawful reformation, if that was even possible. The HOA office, as it turned out, was Mara's garage. A folding table, a file cabinet, a corporate seal stamp ordered online. The court declared all liens void. Public retractions were ordered. Mara was held personally liable to repay over $60,000 she had unlawfully collected from homeowners. Her attorney withdrew before the hearing even concluded. As the judge calmly explained wage garnishment and repayment plans, Mara finally looked around the courtroom. Not at me, not at the judge, but at the neighbors she had intimidated for years. There was no clipboard now, no smile, just silence. I walked out quietly. My coffee mug was empty. Justice, however, was not. And that's how a man who simply read the fine print reminded an entire neighborhood that authority without legality is just noise. Sometimes you don't win by shouting. Sometimes you win by turning the page.